So for my reviews this week, I just really wanted to get Ultimate Iron Man out of the way. Ultimate Iron Man number 2, that is, was really slow for me. I did not enjoy how this story is going along. Nathan Edmondson is writing it, and he is writing it really slow. The storyline is just pretty much the extremist storyline all over again in the Ultimate Universe, like we forgot that it ever happened. I'm not learning anything new about Iron Man. I'm not getting any new kind of comedy out of him. It's the same old stuff. And really, it's just like watching a elongated trailer for Iron Man 3. I don't like that they're trying to kind of align all of the different storylines for Iron Man to get us ready for the movie. I don't like it at all. They do this every time a new Iron Man movie comes out. So for that, I'm going to give Ultimate Iron Man number 2 2 Nerd Skulls.
All right, so I'm starting off this week's comic book reviews with Bedlam, number 2, Nick Spencer, Fraser Irving. First issue left me just jaw-dropped with what I had just read and enjoyed, because this is a dark, sick, gory book. This issue, things finally start to kind of take shape for me. I was a little lost at the end of the first one because it just seemed all over the place, but this one kind of grounds you into what the story is and what's going on. And it's just, this is such a dark idea and dark concept that they find this supervillain. This doctor, fakes his death so he can take this guy, brainwash him, and try to turn him into a good person. But all he knows is bad. So it's interesting to see how he's reacting out in public and out in this environment. And this issue ends with just, I don't know where the next one's going to go, but I am totally on board for this. You guys need to be reading this. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Finally, we got Aquaman number 14 this week, and it was an exciting one. It's starting off the Throne of Atlantis storyline that's going to be bouncing between Aquaman and Justice League for the next few months. This is the prelude, and it really gets you excited for what's to come. Good storytelling in this book. Jeff Johns has really got a way of writing a story, especially an origin story. He's bringing back stuff that happened in the beginning of this new Aquaman series. It's really exciting, and I think that this series, Throne of Atlantis, is going to make it all worth it, this new 52 series. So I'm going to give Aquaman number 14 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. Check it out.
Next up, I got to read All New X-Men number 2. The first issue really left me wanting a lot more, and this book delivers. The kind of calm and a lot of talky that was the first issue, this one is chaotic. Hank comes back with the X-Men. Nobody knows what's going on. Everyone is confused. Iceman meets Iceman, which was pretty cool because Iceman has not been drawn normal in the comic books for like years now. It was interesting to see like the team's reactions to seeing Cyclops and Jean Grey. And this issue ends with, I'm tempted to see what happens here because you have the X-Men of old with the new X-Men, the X-Men that we now have in our continuity, and the old X-Men just being like, what has gone on? How have we strayed so far from this beginning that we know? So I'm just excited to see what comes of this. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Hey nerds, Jim here. This week I got to read Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi, Prisoner of Bogan. This basically takes place after Dawn of the Jedi, go figure. To be honest, I don't know if you remember my review from back then, but I wasn't thrilled with the way Dawn of the Jedi turned out. I loved how it started, not a big fan of how it turned out. So I was a little leery picking up this book and seeing where they were going to go. It was okay. They spent a lot of time reintroducing us to this world and the characters like the Journeyers that they had in the first book. I really did enjoy, though, the interaction between Zesh, who's now banished or a prisoner of Bogan, and Dagan Locke, who had already been there and discovers he's got basically a new roomie on the planet. I like where they're going with this because Dagan Locke was basically banished to Bogan for a premonition that involves Zesh. So I like how they're pulling this all in together, and the Masters seem to have something going on that they're not going to show their cards yet, but it seems like they have some plan going on that isn't exactly Jedi-esque. It seems like it might be a little on the dark side. So I'm very curious how this is going to play out. I am going to continue reading because I hope they continue that interaction between Zesh and Dagan Locke, but I can only give it 3 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
So Uncanny Avengers number 2 came out this week. I was really excited to read this title. because of how the first issue ends with Professor Xavier's head wide open. We've learned that the Red Skull now kind of has Siler's powers from the heroes, where he can just kind of consume someone's brain and get their powers out of it. Really scary to read some pages where Red Skull can communicate with everyone just through his mind and make anyone do whatever he wants. Very scary title. I want to see where it goes, and I want to see how far Red Skull is going to go with how evil he is. I'm looking forward to some more Uncanny Avengers, so check it out. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
FF #1 came out this week. I've been waiting for this book because it's got Mike Allred artwork, and I'm hoping he stays on this book for a very long time. Probably won't, but man, it's awesome. I love his artwork so much. So if you read Fantastic Four, you know that they will be gone for 4 minutes in our reality time. They're going on a year trip, but Tussle was in like 4 minutes. But they need somebody to helm the Future Foundation in the 4 minutes they are gone. And this is the book where we get that. We get Scott Lang. I previously thought it was Hank Pym. It's not Scott Lang, which is really cool because we finally get to see him after the Avengers Crusade stuff. And I like where this book's going. I expect something's going to happen, that we're going to get them as the FF for quite a while. It's going to be a lot longer than the 4 minutes everyone's talking about. But for Mike Allred's artwork alone, you need to pick this up because it's beautiful. You got She-Hulk, Medusa. Everything he draws is awesome. I'm giving this 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. I was fortunate enough to read Talon No. 2. This is a really cool book. I'm a huge Court of Owls fan. I love the idea of this renegade taking down the Court of Owls. And this one, they're going right after the Court's money, which is awesome. Crazy hotel in Gotham, getting more into the history of everything. The only, I guess, little speed bump I have with this book is the relationship between Calvin and Sebastian. And I understand they both have their different end game with dealing with the court, but they just seem so aggressively into their own thing that I don't see how they're going to be able to work together. I'm hoping it's one of these stories that, they'll learn to get together over time and, face their differences. But I mean, just every amount of dialogue between these two, they're just butting heads. That's the only thing I have to say that has me kind of uneasy about this. But it's action-packed. It's cool that you're getting to see all these other Talons and how they're still, dealing with the fall of the Court of Owls after the Batman story. So I'm going to continue reading this, and yeah, I just can't wait to see what else is in store. I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Next up, I have Transformers Prime, Rage of the Dinobots. This opens up with Autobots fought Decepticons, Cybertron lost. What a great line. I did not expect that when I first opened the book. I loved it. So I'm like, okay, cool, you got me. Basically, it's a story, as it says in the title, about the Dinobots. And I'll be honest, I don't know much about the Dinobots. I saw the cartoon way back in the 80s, and I loved the Dinobots. I had several of the figures. Very cool. But I don't know their origin. And they were bad. So I was very surprised to see that as Ultra Magnus is ordering the evacuation of Cybertron, here come the Dinobots as Autobots. And I'm like, holy cow, what's going on? I don't know. Very cool. It sort of tells us a little bit of this backstory where something happened, because they were Autobots, but then they were experimented on, something happened to them, and they transformed into these Dinobots, and the rest of the Autobots basically don't trust them, almost like they're second-class citizens, and they're fighting for the right to be Autobots as they fight the Decepticons. It's a very interesting dynamic. I was very impressed. And it ends with, of course, the Decepticons, which is led by Shockwave right now, as we learned in the beginning. Optimus Prime and Megatron have left, so they're nowhere to be found. So Shockwave is leading, and he kidnaps Ultra Magnus, and the Dinobots try and go to rescue him. They find that he's nowhere to be found, and Shockwave and the Decepticons are able to basically kidnap one of the Dinobots. It basically ends right there. I am floored at how impressed and interested I am in this book. I highly recommend it. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Another new Image title with Nowhere Men #1 this week. Eric Stevenson writes it and Nate Bellegarde does the artwork. I wanted to read this title because Nate Bellegarde did some of the Invincible specials, and I really kind of fell in love with his artwork. And so I decided to pick up this book, and I was pleasantly surprised. It follows 4 scientists who some time ago decided to start a company that would change the world in a good way, the World Corp. A very pretentious name, but the book is very, very good. I really liked where it was going, where it's 2 different storylines. The first half tells about the 4 scientists. The second half tells about this nasty virus that has caused a quarantine in this small lab, and hopefully the Nowhere Men or World Corp will come in to fix that. But I like the storyline. I like the storytelling by Eric Stevenson, and of course I like Nate Bellegarde, so I'm going to give this book 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Well, we've got the conclusion to Before Watchmen, Silk Spectre. Number 4 is the end of that series. Sad to see it end because I was enjoying it very much, between Darwin Cook writing and the Amanda Conner artwork. It's a perfect ending, though. You really get the end of her story, and it picks up kind of right where her beginning was in the Watchmen book, like her going to the meeting and meeting Dr. Manhattan and the rest of the team. I thought this was just done very well. It really, Darwin Cook's interesting because he's writing the Minutemen book, and in that you really love Sally Jupiter. But in reading this, you hate Sally because she's such an awful mother. And I really like seeing both sides of her in this book, you know, being the mother and then being the hero back in the day. And it's just interesting to see how everything played itself out. But this was an awesome story. I'm hoping to see more of these Minutemen books, or more of the Watchmen books, but either way, I was a fan. I'm giving this 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Witch Doctor Malpractice #1 came out this week, begins the new storyline for Witch Doctor, which, as you remember, was the first title under Skybound's imprint under Image. Robert Kirkman's little sub-company that he began. This is the new storyline. We kind of pick up right where we left off from the first series, where this Lucas Kettner draws these amazing monsters in this book. He really draws some crazy artwork, and him and Brandon Seifert's writing, they kind of team up well together. And I want to read more of this title. I mean, I love the first series, and we've got our wisecracking doctor back, so I don't see any differences. So I think that the story's going to be just as good, if not better, and hopefully the series will keep coming. And I want to read some more, so I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. Check out Witch Doctor Malpractice.
All right, I got to read All-Star Western number 14. We got Jonah Hex, Amadeus Arkham, dealing with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde being in Gotham. We see the departure of Tallulah Black, which bums me out because I really loved her and Jonah's dynamic in this book, but it kind of seemed like a message of the book for me. These issues are getting kind of, I don't know, I just don't feel as excited every week to read All-Star Western as I previously was. Not that this story didn't show some promise, but I'm kind of waiting for something big to happen again. I liked all of Gotham's history, and now it seems like they ended up in New Orleans, they're doing some other stuff. So I really hope this gets back to the first couple issues that I really, really loved about it. But I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.